Okay. So welcome to the Triggers webinar. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Jeannine Rashid, and I am the owner and founder of Goodbye Tension, nurturing wholeness, healing hearts, empowering minds, and cultivating abundance beyond trauma. Just so you know, some of my trainings and certifications, I've written the best-selling book, Abundance Beyond Trauma, which comes with the workbook, creator of the Adhere process, which will be next month's webinar, specializing in trauma-informed care, heart and mind integration, lots of education in Ayurveda, including a doctorate that I'm finishing up. I'm also a Psych K facilitator, which is learning how to reprogram your subconscious, among other trainings and certifications. But more importantly, if you don't already have my contact info, please go ahead and jot that down, goodbyetension.com. And you can reach me at info@goodbyetension.com. So if you are watching this live or recorded, this is your release of liability. In consideration for being allowed to participate in the Triggers webinar, live or recorded, the participant agrees to release any and all liability of Goodbye Tension, Jeannine Rashid, and Abundance Beyond Trauma from any harm, damages, or injury on any level. So being that this is a Triggers webinar, let's make sure that we understand, well, what does it mean to be activated, charged, or triggered? So when we perceive an unmet need or threat, this can create an emotional response known as a trigger response. When we have adverse life experiences or trauma, it's customary to be challenged or triggered by people, places, things, words, behaviors, smells, etc. So it's also important to remember that we get triggered through our senses. So any of your senses can get activated and take you back to that moment of trauma. So I'd like us to make a commitment about coming out of the trauma trigger time loop experience. So what is the trauma trigger time loop experience? Events that you witnessed or were directly involved in that were too much for your emotional heart, mind, and psyche to process, led to a disconnect from your emotional heart and mind, leaving parts of yourself stuck in a time loop of the related event. The time loop gets activated when triggered, and the emotional, mental, and physical responses come from that part of you that's now reliving the adverse experience. You're no longer in a state of presence. You're in the past and unable to see correctly as the lens of your perception is now from that triggered part of you. And so your actions and reactions, they may be confusing. They may seem immature to others and to yourself upon reflection. So just take a moment, put your hand over your heart, and say out loud, I am committed to coming out of the trauma trigger time loop experience. Now, every webinar that I share is all about the relationship that you have with yourself. And so a healthy relationship begins with a commitment to oneself. And now I'd like you to take a moment. I'm going to have you close your eyes. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. In through your nose, the belly rises. Out of your mouth, the belly falls. And again, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And one more time, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Keeping your eyes closed, I want you to imagine, who would you be if you weren't triggered? What would you look like? What would you feel? what would you be able to do? What would your heart be like? What would your mind be like? Make sure that you're breathing as you're imagining what it would be like if you were no longer triggered, and really get a good visual of that. And if you haven't already gotten something to write with, go ahead and find that now. You could also do it digitally, but I want you to jot down a few notes. Who would you be if you weren't triggered? What did it feel like? How were you different? What experiences did you have with your mind, your heart, your body? Just take a few more moments to write it down, anything else that you noticed. So, congratulations, you just tapped into the power of your own mind. The mind is incredibly powerful. When I asked you to imagine who you would be when you were not triggered, you already embodied that. If I asked you to think of your most favorite place in the world, immediately something comes to mind. And if I say, now I want you to remember a place that is not so positive, you can immediately go there. Your mind is incredibly powerful once you learn how to harness it. And you've already now witnessed with multiple senses who you would be if you weren't triggered. So I want you to remember that as we move forward. So the only way to move forward is to be willing to see where you are. So when you're triggered, it's important to understand that you are in a triggered place. The most important thing to remember is to have courage and commitment to move forward and not avoid yourself any longer. So it's very tempting when you're in a triggered state, your body will naturally go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. So my goal here in sharing this information is to show you how to stay in your big, expanded, higher mind, higher self place, whichever word resonates for you, when that little self, the triggered self, is having a moment, so that you can keep an eye on her or him and contain him as he's having the experience. So I want you to remember that the trigger is just pointing out that which has been inside of you all along. It's a part of you, and avoiding it is no different than seeing you have an infected wound and pretending that it doesn't exist. The wound will continue to grow and fester, and eventually it does lead to more severe dis-ease. So now I'd like you to take a few moments, and I want you to jot down, what are the triggers you know you already have? Break them into categories: people, places, things, behaviors, and anything that didn't fall under those categories. So go ahead and write that down. just give me a thumbs up when you know you're finished so that I'm not moving too quickly. Okay.
Do you want us to write the triggers or just the list of things for right now?
Just the people that you know that trigger you, the places,
Okay,
things, and
so
the
go
behavior.
through each
We'll go
of
into
those and write
detail
them.
later. Yeah,
Okay,
just so you have a list.
okay. I need a few more minutes.
Okay. So the purpose of this list, at some point, and I know right now it may not seem like something you'd want to do, but at some point you will not be continually triggered. But you will know that there are certain triggers that you have that maybe you haven't worked on yet. So there's going to be a time where you may feel brave enough to actively work on a trigger when you're not in a triggered state. And the next webinar, the adhere process, is where we will really use a lot of that work when you're searching for a trigger to work on so that you're not triggered when it happens. But knowing what your triggers are is half the battle. Okay, so moving on. So accountability is super important. I want you to either imagine someone if you don't already know who they are. Now, when I say someone that can hold you accountable, it could be the idea of this person holding you accountable, or it's somebody who's currently in your life that can hold you accountable. So find someone that you trust to keep you accountable on your journey of courage and commitment toward maintaining loyalty to yourself first by facing the illusion that your triggers create. And now just jot down who 3 accountability partners would be. Now, for those who are watching or may watch the recording, if you don't feel you have anybody in your life that can hold you accountable, then I want you to imagine somebody that you look up to. And I want you to imagine that they are the ones holding you accountable. And then you can go ahead and write them down in the accountabilities partners section. And then just give me a thumbs up when you've got them. These would be people who can stay neutral when you're sharing about a trigger, people that you trust no matter what your state of being. So when you aren't in your worst moments where you might feel that a majority of people are your enemy, and if you've ever been triggered, you know what I'm talking about. You want to find the people that you trust, even in that place of feeling like everyone's the enemy. Okay. And then just give me a thumbs up. Okay, so if you're not able to think of anyone, I want you to think of when you were a child, was there somebody you admired? This could even be a movie character. This could be somebody who's no longer living, who's in the past, somebody who represented strength, integrity, and truth. And it's okay if it's only one person instead of 3. It could also be, if you are faith-based, it could be whether it's Jesus, Buddha, Kali, whatever your belief system is, it could also be that. Okay. So moving on. So we need to remember that wherever the breath goes, the mind follows. So the most powerful tool that you have that you will often forget is your breath. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend the next 60 seconds just focusing on how to breathe and making sure that we're breathing, because in the next section, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into looking at the triggers. And sometimes when we look deeper at triggers, we can re-trigger ourselves. So we will always want to come back to the breath. And if you find yourself in a moment where it feels like it's too intense, send me a message in the chat. I will slow this down because I don't want you to feel left behind. I want you to feel supported. So right now, just tune in and find out, how are you right now in this moment? How do you feel mentally? How do you feel emotionally? Just to use it as a gauge. And then when you're ready, I'm going to have you close your eyes. We're going to start taking some nice deep diaphragmatic breaths. And something I should have mentioned when we started is, please make sure you have tissue near. It is common and acceptable, as well as encouraged, to have emotions during this webinar. So as you close your eyes, I want you to start taking some nice deep diaphragmatic breaths in through your nose. The belly rises. Out of your mouth, the belly falls. Making sure your eyes are closed because you're taking a journey inward. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. Now we're going to do some alternate nostril breathing. You're going to use your thumb and you're going to close off your right nostril. You're going to breathe in through the left nostril. Close off the left nostril with your index finger and breathe out through your right nostril. Breathe in through your right nostril. Close it off. Breathe out through your left nostril. In through your left nostril. Close it off. Out through your right nostril. In through your right nostril. Close it off. Out through your left nostril. In through the left. Close it off. Out through the right. In through the right. Close it off. Out through the left. And now just breathe regularly. So alternate nostril breathing balances the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. This is the part of your nervous system that, when it's out of balance, that's usually a sign that you are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. So alternate nostril breathing, starting your day that way. And then anytime you noticed you're in a triggered state or that you might be going into a place that triggers you, doing alternate nostril breathing before is highly recommended so that you're in a balanced place. I also recommend it before you go to sleep, especially if you have nightmares or night terrors, going into that deep sleep state, into the subconscious mind where you're balanced. you are less likely to be affected if you do this on a regular basis. Okay, so moving on, remember, you've already harnessed the power of your mind, which is amazing. And now you know how to breathe. So you've got 2 tools right now. So we're only going to spend 3 minutes on this next exercise because I don't want you to get lost in the moment of describing the trigger. This is just so that you can become aware as you're writing it. What is the language you're using as you're writing it out so that you have an idea of what trigger you're going to work on today. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. You're just going to take one of the moments. So you made a list, one moment, and describe the moment and when you got triggered. And go ahead and do that now. As you're writing, are you breathing? Making sure the exhale is longer than the inhale. You have about another minute and 15 seconds. You're doing great. 30 more seconds. Okay, go ahead and stop writing. Now I want you to close your eyes, tune into your body, and if you were not aware of it at that moment, tune into your body and figure out where in your body are you feeling triggered when you think about the situation or as you were writing it down. So you're going to start by scanning your body if you don't already know where you're feeling it, because sometimes a trigger can make you feel like every part of you is experiencing it. So tune into your feet, and you're just going to ask, are my feet triggered? Once you get a clear yes or no, I want you to move on to your lower legs. Are my lower legs triggered? Moving on to the knees. Are your knees triggered? Are your thighs triggered? Make sure you're breathing. Is your pelvis triggered? Are your hips triggered? Is your lower abdomen or your lower back triggered? Your stomach or your mid back? Is that part triggered? Your heart space, maybe the front side or the back side. Do you feel triggered in your heart? Does your heart beat quickly when you're in that state? Or does it hurt? What about your chest or your shoulders? Your arms or your hands? Moving back up, what about your throat or your neck? Maybe you feel like you can't speak. That would be a sign that your body is triggered. Maybe it's tension in the back of your neck. And now tune into your head and your face. Does your jaw clench? Are your eyes frozen? Do you feel like you can't think when you're triggered? And then just give me a thumbs up when you have figured out which part of your body felt triggered about this particular trigger that you're working on. Okay, so moving on, we now have figured out what the trigger is. You've written about it, and now where in your body you're triggered. Now we need to figure out, what are you feeling? Now, I don't know about you, but in the early days when I would get triggered, I had no idea what I was feeling because it was such a rush of emotion that it could vary from being angry, scared, sad, laughter, things that just didn't quite add up. And it felt very crazy like. You're not crazy. You're having an experience. So just remember that you are not going crazy. Your little one is having an experience and they need support. So now we need to figure out, what are they feeling? What are you feeling when you write this down? When you imagine what that trigger is or that experience that you've had? Do you feel angry? Which includes words like hate, mad, furious, and look at what you wrote. See if any of those words were ever made it down to the page. Were you scared? Did you feel weak, rejected, helpless, confused, insecure, embarrassed? Were you sad? Did you feel hurt, lonely, unhappy, miserable, feeling down? And go ahead and identify, and yes, there can be multiple feelings, so write them all down. Once you've got it, either give me a thumbs up or let me know in the chat. Okay. So moving on. Now, which sense activated the trigger? Was it something you heard? Maybe it was a sound, like a loud sound. Maybe it was something someone said. Was it a scent? Was it something that you saw or witnessed? Was it something that you felt? Or did it have a taste? And go ahead and write that down. And then just let me know, either a thumbs up on the camera or letting me know in the chat that you have figured out what the sense is that activated about that trigger. Great. Okay, so moving on. Now you're going to fill in the blanks because you've just done all this work. Your sense of what got activated. That's where you're going to write in which sense you just figured out. It got activated when? So at what moment when you wrote out that trigger, did you notice that that sense got activated? Once you've got that, move on to the next. I felt triggered in which part of my body? And then when, during that experience, try to be as specific to the moment if you can. That part of your body got activated when? And then we figured out the feelings that you had. So the emotion that I felt is, and write them all out. And when during that experience did those emotions start to show up?
So I'm wondering, I might need a little bit of help here.
Sure.
Um, one of my issues is food allergies, but it's not like a going to the hospital type. And
Okay.
so I intentionally ate something today so that I knew we were working on this. But I'm
Okay.
trying to, like, am I going back to the moment when when this originally arose, or am I in this moment of what I'm feeling now?
You are trying to basically reflect on that moment. So you've written down the experience that you had that let you know you were triggered. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're trying to self-reflect by
Okay.
being able to look at the situation in a different way, by understanding which of your senses, where in your body, and what feelings did you notice that you had? Because when you're in the experience, it's the hardest thing to do is to ask yourself, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it?
Mm-hmm.
Because every part of your body is saying fight, run away, freeze, that sort of thing. So in
Okay.
essence, you are trying to tune into the past
Mm-hmm.
by really being present with that moment now. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
So it's the general experience of the thing.
Right. And then
And
trying to break it down. So we're trying to break down our triggers so
okay,
they don't seem so daunting.
okay. So I'm doing it right. Okay, that
That
was
was a great
just
question. Thank you.
okay. Okay, one more question.
Sure.
How would I tell the difference in my body between like fight, flight, or freeze? Because one of the things I'm realizing is that I don't always know where I am on that. Like I
Okay.
can tell if something's not right, but like so for example, like my heart is beating hard,
Okay.
but it's like but I don't feel fear of something, but I don't know. I guess I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out
That's okay.
how
So in
to
the
tell.
experience that you had, so yours was you intentionally ate something knowing that it was going to trigger you.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, if you ate something intentionally, you already knew that you would have a trigger response.
Hmm.
Do you want does the feeling come that you want to maybe fight with a part of yourself about the fact that you did that? Do you want to
Mm-hmm.
run away and avoid the fact that you did it at all? Do you feel frozen like, oh my God, I did this, now what? Or do you feel completely submissive to that moment? That
It
would be
feels
more.
like the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So then that would
That
be
helps
the
me a
fight
lot.
response. And it's actually normal if
Okay.
you have multiple of these. You could want to
Oh,
fight and
okay.
run away all at the same time. You could be frozen and want to fight
Okay.
too. You just might not
Okay.
be capable of it. Yeah.
Okay. That's helpful. Yeah, especially that you said I wanted to fight with myself because I'm like I can't picture myself fighting with people about it, and so that's why I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. Okay,
Yeah.
that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so just let me know in the chat once you've got this all written out. And I'm asking for it to come into the chat because somehow I've lost seeing you on video and I can't figure out how to get it back, and I don't want to waste time figuring that out. So you could just give me a thumbs up in the chat or a okay. All right, so moving on. So I've been referencing little self and big self. The little self reacts. The big self creates. So when we started this, we started by activating the big self, by creating within your mind space what it would be like if you were no longer triggered. So your mind already has the capacity to do this. The secret here with triggers is understanding when the little self is showing up. And it usually will have a pendulum effect, going from one extreme to another. All of a sudden, you're fine, everything's good, you're in creation mode, life's great. And then something happens, one of your senses get activated. And before you know it, you're on the other side of the spectrum. And now you're having an experience where you can't quite get yourself out of it. So it's important to remember there's the big part of you that is resolved. There is another part of you that is not resolved. That is the trigger part, and that's the part that we're focusing on today. So here's where we are going to now use the I'm Triggered Pocket Guide, the first 3 steps to come out of this triggered state. So the first thing you're going to do, once you've identified that you're triggered, now we've just broken it down. So you have figured out what sense got activated, when it got activated, so on and so forth. So now I want you to again close your eyes and imagine you are there right now in that situation. You don't have to see it, but you're there. I want you to stop. Don't make any decisions. The reason for this is if the little self is in the driver's seat, that part of you will make decisions for your life that may change the course of your life. So it's important once you can identify that you are triggered, that you know, don't do anything. You must stop because every action will have a consequence. And then you want to look at your breath. So right now, get your breath under control. Now, usually I'll use my own experience. When I'm triggered, I hyperventilate. So if somebody says, take a deep breath, I want to smack them because there's no way I'm going to be able to take a deep breath when I'm in a hyperventilated state. So in the I'm Triggered Pocket Guide, you're going to try to catch your breath. So if I'm hyperventilating and I can't catch my breath, I'm going to take 2 quick inhales through my nose, and I'm going to exhale as long as I can out my mouth. I want you to go ahead and do that now. 2 quick inhales, a long exhale. Again, 2 quick inhales, long exhale. I want you to open your eyes and I want you to locate 3 things, preferably in nature. However, let's say you don't have access to a window or you don't have any plants or water in the room that you're in. I want you to look around for 3 objects that represent this current time, this space that you're presently in. The benefit of looking at either a plant, a flower, water, it's alive, it has consciousness, and that is all about presence. So now we're going to use the wisdom of nature to help bring us back to a present state. The other thing about keeping your eyes moving, especially if you have a freeze response, this will help unfreeze your brain. And now what's happening with your breath? Are you still in a hyperventilative space or holding your breath? Continue to catch the breath. Or if you already feel like you can take that deep breath, go ahead. Moving on to the next step. Now I want you to identify your well-wishers. These are the people you trust in your worst moments. So if you were not able to find someone that you trusted and you needed to imagine, maybe it was your faith-based God, maybe it's Jesus, Buddha, Kali, etc. Whoever it is, identify them and imagine them right now. It is super helpful when you can imagine that there is someone outside of you that you can remember and tap into to give your body the sensation and the feeling, along with your heart and your mind, that you are safe and you are cared for, and that there is someone or some entity that's got your back in this moment. And again, what's going on with your breath? See if you are at a place where you can finally take that deep diaphragmatic breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Through your nose and out through your mouth. One more time, in through your nose and out through your mouth. So these 3 steps can pull you out of a triggered state. If you don't already have the I'm Triggered Pocket Guide, I will make sure that you get a copy of that at the end of this webinar. So the next step, you've just pulled yourself out of that triggered state. This trigger that you had, it activated the experience you had when. What we're looking for here is there an age that you remember or something in your past that this trigger that you're currently working on now reminds you of, where it activated the same sense, it activated the same part of your body, it gave you the same feeling, even if the events are not related. So just think about that for a moment. The trigger you're currently working on, did it activate an experience from your younger years? And then just let me know in the chat if you were able to draw a connection there. Great. Okay. So moving on. Now, the next webinar is all about the adhere process. Now, you will get a copy of the I'm Triggered Pocket Guide. In that pocket guide, I already share with you the adhere process, which will be next month's webinar. And it's going to show you how to heal that part of yourself. So I'd like to open up any questions that you might have about what you've learned today to make sure that you feel solid about being able to slow down enough to identify your trigger. It may not happen within the moment, but are you able to self-reflect about that to figure out all of the things you learned today? Not only the power of your mind, definitely the power of your breath, but do you feel that the tools that you learned here today will help you self-reflect on a moment of being triggered where you can break it down and figure out what you're feeling, when you felt it, where in your body you felt it, as well as the sense that got activated, and maybe even an even younger event that happened in your earlier years that created the same feeling. And then just let me know in the chat. Or if you feel comfortable and you want to open up your mic, you could also do that. Both are acceptable.
I really enjoyed the alternate nose nostril breathing. I feel like that relaxed me like
Good.
right away. Like I automatically felt like you said, in balance. So that's something that I'm definitely gonna incorporate when I'm stressed.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
I love how you're kind of able to combine like the inner experience with the outer experience, because that was always something that I didn't quite understand. Like I knew when I didn't feel right, but then I didn't know like why, like what started it, and then I didn't know what to do after that. And so this it's a very clear path to know what to do with all of the things. And yeah, I feel like all of it was very, very helpful for me.
Good. Okay. I'm very glad to hear that. So just to remind you when the next webinar is, if you don't already have my contact information, please do write it down. My number is there too, so you can text me. And when I'm able, I will get back to you. Remembering that the whole purpose of what I'm doing here is to nurture the wholeness within you, helping you heal your heart, empowering your mind, and cultivating abundance beyond trauma. I'm going to stop this recording.